Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies podcast. Brandon, how are you?
I'm alright. Not as doom and gloom as I was the last podcast we done. But here they say still a bit shit after the weekend as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a rollercoaster the last 2 weeks, you would say. We had the low of losing to Partick Thistle at home. You then have that high during the week of beating Inverness. And now we're back to rock bottom.
Crash back to reality.
Crash back to reality, exactly. So let's start from where we left off last time, where we were talking about John Rankin and how we need to see improvement from his teams going forward, especially given the situation we're in currently at the bottom of the table. We had to see improvement in the last 3 games. To see if we thought he would be good enough to continue his time at the club. That's the first thing, but also obviously to get away from this relegation place. Now, I know what your answer is going to be, but we are sitting bottom of the table. What is your situation now, given the performances, given the games that we've had?
I feel as he's Saturday needs to go. Is how I see it. Ultimately, football's a results business. No matter what my thoughts and feelings on him as a person and as how much I really wanted him and what still do want him to do well. Ultimately, where we sit in the league and the results which he has got so far just haven't been good enough. Results are football's a results business, and I think I saw someone say we've got 2 wins all season, 9 goals scored, were by far the lowest scorers out with Arbroath. I think Arbroath have got 1 more than us, and then the gap's quite big with other teams. And where we were 2 seasons ago to where we are now just is unacceptable. And the results this season haven't been good enough against opposition which aren't exactly... They shouldn't be better than us in the manner we
keep talking about the standard of the championship, and we'll get into the games individually in a second, but we talk about the championship as a whole and how anybody can beat everybody. That's what we keep talking about, you know. And we spoke about that in the bus on the way back home from Arbroath.
Did we?
Maybe you don't remember, but we spoke about that in the bus on the way back home about anybody can beat anybody. You know, you're seeing Morton pick up, you know, getting battered by Thistle and then picking up good results against Cove and Ayr. You know, you can see us getting beat by Partick Thistle, picking up a good one against Inverness, and then crashing back to the bottom, getting beat by Arbroath, you know. But we just don't seem to have the mentality or the quality to string results together. We get a really good one against Inverness and you think that's buoying us up. You know the phrase kickstart our season, etc. I think we said that as well. And then we just can't do it. We just never seem to be able to do it. It's a question that somebody asked on Twitter, so we'll get back to that later on. But let's go back to Partick Thistle. So we talked in our last podcast about what we wanted to see. We didn't really mention that we want to see any big changes to the personnel because we're limited in that anyway. But how do you think the Thistle game went, and did you see any improvements or anything that you could take from it?
No, definitely. The performance we saw at Morton and we spoke on here is probably one of the worst performances we've probably seen ever from an Accies side. So anything would have been an improvement on that. But I think it's safe to say, and even after the game, I think McCalls came out and said that Accies deserved to win.
Yeah.
I think we gave a reaction Thistle weren't expecting. I don't think a lot of fans expected the reaction. I'm not saying that we played out of this world. I still think there was a lot of room for improvement, and must be if we didn't win. But there was effort there. Do you know what I mean? And that's all we ask for. And I think if the players give the effort, then we should be safe in this league. But they need consistency with that effort. But ultimately, again, this is where it's frustrating because all we ask for is 100% effort and determination, but even with that against Thistle, we didn't. We had nothing to show for it.
They just had that.
But we had nothing to show for it. We came out with 0 points. Do you know what I mean? So, we might have been the better team. We've put in a lot of effort, but ultimately, you need points to go up the table, and we didn't get that. But again, I think we talked at the Thistle game and after it. It's that cutting edge. It's that having that person,
that Brian Graham,
having that Brian Graham, having someone that you can rely on. Just watching how he played the game, even when he was off the ball, it's clear to see that he's one of the best, if not the best, in the league up front, even at the age he's at. And that's the difference. Having that cutting edge up top is ultimately which will probably see them at a very, very minimum get a playoff, which could have realistically been us if we recruited in the positions which we always cry out for.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That was the big takeaway I took, was the improvement in attitude, effort, all that stuff. But as you said, that's great, and that's what we talk about. All Accies fans want to see is that from a team. But ultimately, that doesn't always win you games by itself. Sometimes you do just need that player who's got a knack for sticking the ball in the back of the net. And we don't have that. We talk about it every week about needing a striker, and as you said, we just need that Brian Graham figure almost in a game like that, who is just there to tap the ball home. And and as much as I love Andy Ryan, I think we improve when Andy Ryan's in the team. He's not that striker. He's not that type of player. He will get his goals, but he needs somebody up there. If we're going to play Andy Ryan, he needs somebody like a Brian Graham up there who's there just to tap in for 6 yards, who's going to make those early runs to the front post. Do you know what I mean? We just don't have that.
And what I'm going to sort of flip on that as well is we then go into the Inverness game and Andy Winter scores a goal. See, when you look at Andy Winter's record when he was playing with the under-18s, under-20s, whatever you want to call it, he was scoring every single week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He got his first game against Edinburgh, scored in his debut. He was playing up front when he was playing with the reserves and the youth team, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't play up front with us, and I've saw a lot of people talk about this. Ultimately, Andy Winter's probably been one of our most consistent players over the past season and a half so far, and he always pops up with a goal here and there, and that's not playing him up front. Why are we not playing him up front? That's an argument, I would say. Yeah,
I agree with you, and I think part of that comes down to how the manager wants to set up. He wants to set up with 3 up top, but the problem is you can't drop Andy Ryan. You can't do that, but then you also can't then play Andy Ryan out wide. So you either play Andy Ryan with 2 wingers, so your Lewis Smiths, whoever you want to do, or you put a square peg in a round hole and try and put Andy Winter out wide. Where we spoke about with Stuart Taylor when I interviewed him about fitting him into positions, and that's not what his natural position is. So the same with Andy Ryan, but I think it's a case of the formation the last 2 managers are want to have played is only a 1 striker role, and they can't drop something.
That's unfair in players that are clearly better than what they're showing. Because I think it's clear to see the effort and commitment Andy Winter especially puts in every single game. He runs constantly. He's probably the one that looks the most deflated when we go off the park, etc.
But then also on the flip side, when we win, he looks like the one who cares the most.
Definitely. And I think, it's just, in my opinion, I think the boy clearly has a knack how to score. He showed that when he was in the youth team. He's shown it when he's playing in the first team in a position which probably isn't his favoured position. It's clearly not working at the present moment, so I think we need to sort of change it up coming into the next game. We'll come on to that, but I keep saying the standard of the league's not good enough, so if we're not getting the results how we've been playing, then surely it just needs to be trying different things to try and get the results, because ultimately if he doesn't get the results and he continues to go with the same setup and the same style which he's playing, and we don't get the results, then there's nothing else that can do than him seeing the back of the door.
Alright, let's move on to the Inverness. So we had the low of Partick and then to the high of Inverness. There was 29 of us or something.
I don't know.
I don't even think it was as much as even the 32. But a small number of us took the trip up to Inverness, and it was one of those games I put on Twitter where that's the type of game that you're glad you follow your team, because
100%.
A good game, a great result, celebrations afterwards were fantastic, the fans who were there were great, and overall really, really good.
No,
loved it.
Listen, half day at work for it. People called us mad, and we are mad for doing that, especially in the sort of one we're on. But essentially, that is why they're the type of results and they're the type of wins that the reason why I support Accies. Like, we've obviously been at the very lowest point all season, probably for the vast majority of the season. We've not had anything to shout about apart from a victory against 10 man, now second bottom in the league. So we got up to Inverness, a team that's won 5 in a trot. I think we'd lost 4 in a trot. Nobody's given us a chance in hell, really, and we come up with the win. Not taking anything away for the win, because I thought the performance was great. People were putting their bodies in the line. Effort was 100%, but again, it was a very poor Inverness side that were very depleted injury-wise. So, say don't get carried away. Good example of why we shouldn't get carried away is for the result which followed thereafter. But the actual game itself, no, 100. But the players were brilliant. They put in the effort. A lot of chances where we could have took them again, and this is what's ultimately going to cost us. We've took one of the many chances we had that night. Sorry, which luckily we took the one chance we did. The reason why where we find ourselves sitting just now is because we are creating all these chances and ultimately only taking very, very small amounts of them. But again, I'm no way to make this performance sound poor, because it was a good performance. We got a win, and yeah, I think just the thing I saw was the Simpsons SPFL Twitter, and it was like one of the memes, whatever you call that, picture, and it was like,
you're such a da.
Well, I don't know what you call it, memes?
A meme,
a meme. Fucking.
I don't know what you guys go on as social media.
But what was it? It said something like, "Here lies Hamilton Accies. This will be the team who always pull out a midweek victory when no one." An away midweek victory when no one expects them to get it, which is probably what we have been known for the past few seasons. So, no, it was a good win, good trip for a small amount of fans. Fans were pretty loud, I'd say.
Heard people saying that we're watching the stream. You could see the Accies fans.
So, no, I got right behind them and got a reward for travelling up there and not getting home to 1:30 at night. But then again, I say back to reality, we shouldn't really be calling bottom of the championship reality, but yeah, that massive high that we had during the week just came to a very low halt come Saturday there.
Something else that we forgot to mention.
Okay.
With yourself, not only are you an OnlyAccies host, you're also the guest star of the Terrace podcast with Craig Fowler.
Well, Ben was apparently too busy. So
don't make it
of course, I don't even think I was second best. I think I was third best.
No, not at all.
So I'm kidding on. But no, obviously done the podcast during the week with Craig,
which
Fowler.
we'll link in the description.
You need to pay for it though, so sometimes if you want to pay for it. I didn't, because I don't really listen to my own voice, but it was a really good podcast. I've had good feedback about it. It was pretty funny. Spoke about obviously all things Accies, about our season so far, the summer we had, etc. But no, it was really good. And again, it's just for a team which causes as much pain and heartache and makes us feel so doom and gloom, we don't have like talking about it. And I don't know if it's just getting it off our chest a little bit now, which
this is like
tends
therapy
to help.
for us.
Yes, it is like therapy. But no, it was really good, and it was good to see. Obviously, we're still being kept in the sort of light despite our bottom of the table championship antics.
Tell me about the story you told on the podcast about Stuart Taylor, because that seemed to get a little bit of reaction on social media.
We say story. I ultimately just told people out with the Accies support who would probably be none the wiser about how mad Hamilton Accies as a football club is. Obviously plugged our podcast. I don't think you'll see many other football teams which has the owner, the chairman, the manager, all that come on their own fans' podcast. So pat on the back for us. But ultimately the type of interviews in which we have obviously explained about the Taylor one and how different a type of interview that was for anyone out with like any other football fan to see that about their own team. It would be probably unheard of. So I'll just explain that, and then obviously explained about how Taylor came up to the vaults at the end of the season, which it's not really about telling a story. This is what happened. He came up and he's sort of pleaded with the fans to get behind him, and at the time, people saw it as like a cry for help because we were 6th in the league and we were seen to be doing a lot poorer than what's expected, where in actual fact it's turned out to be a plead for help because he's in the midst of probably getting sacked, which we know how long that went on for. But like, as much as we negatively spoke about Taylor and how he played football, we finished 6th last season. Where are we now?
That's what I was just about to say. Actually, was last season we're talking about, we shouldn't be finishing 6th. This isn't good enough and all that. We should be higher up. See, this situation, I would be taking it close to 6th place because after the Saturday's result, we currently sit bottom of the table.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about Arbroath on Saturday. First of all, shout out to Jerry Strain and DS Solutions. DS Solutions, who subsidised the fan bus, John Patterson's famous fan bus. So thank you for them for taking the fans up. Thought that was a great gesture. Was that the best part of the day? the bus there.
This is what, for the past few seasons, I've been saying about Accies, as the football is the thing which just makes the day horrendous. Like, everything bar the actual football in the park tends to be the thing which ruins very good days supporting Accies, because everything else that comes with it tends to be just has you in either hysterics or just has you in a positive mood, and then you go and watch the football and then
you're brought back down again. But I know it was really good of Jerry to do that, and we've obviously spoken about Jerry. We've spoken to Jerry's breath of fresh air, he seems, and he seems to be doing all the right things and didn't need to do that. I don't think even when he's done it, he's not got social media that he wasn't trying to do it to sort of to get the accolades from the fans.
Get the accolade, pat in the back, well done. He was clearly just doing it as he's trying to get the fans behind the team, which we ultimately needed on Saturday. So thanks for that. But again, on the pitch, not good enough. We're playing a team which are part-time, of probably came back off a one-hit wonder season, you'd probably argue, because
I would agree with that.
They're part-time, they're not going to get to that level again. Last year's championship wasn't particularly the best either. It just had a Kilmarnock team who they went to the end with them of the season, but ultimately the rest of the teams were pretty poor again. This season we're the poorest team now, but they were the poorest team before ourselves. They're part-time. They played on Wednesday as well, meaning they had a day's fewer rest than ourselves, and all we asked for was to 100% not get out fought, not get out battled. And I saw a few fans say, well, we did seem to fight and we did seem to battle, which there was points where it looked like that, but again, I don't know if you've watched the highlights, so many chances that have been missed, which you just can't be doing. And we put teams which are at the bottom end of the table, like ourselves, cannot be ruin these type of misses, because essentially what will happen is you'll get punished, and we did. Equally being said, I think Arbroath had quite a lot of chances as well.
Absolutely.
So they had a lot more chances than us, but we did have chances which were big chances, which ultimately we've not taken. And should we maybe have other people in the positions, they might have taken them.
Yeah, I mean, let's start from before the game, actually, when we get the news that, first of all, Ryan Fulton picked up an injury in the warm-up, which meant that Jamie Smith started in goal, get his first start since end of the Premiership season, where he played against Kelly. So that then means now that Jamie Smith is going to be, because we've not heard about Ryan Fulton, I can only assume Jamie Smith is going to be our keeper for the foreseeable future until we hear about that.
Much.
I saw that Potter was a listed sub on the reserves today. Now, whether that is Brian Potter.
That is Brian Potter.
So whether that is Brian Potter or not is up to you. But I saw he was a listed reserve. Anyway, so he picked up an injury, so Jamie Smith started the game. How did you think Jamie Smith did?
Listen, I don't think you can really blame him for anything. Like, the goal might have done better, to be honest with you, but apart from that,
I think it took a deflection as well off of Matty Shields. So
it did sort of like dribble, like sort of no dribble in, but it sort of went in quite slowly, and from where we were sat, it did look as if maybe he could have done better, but ultimately it's not really his. You can't blame him.
No, not at all.
Apart from that, he done everything that was asked from him.
Well, that's what I was actually going to say was...
He wasn't really challenged that much, but ultimately everything that was put to him, crosses were put in. He seemed to command his area very well, so fair play to him for that, but you can't blame him for any of that.
Yeah, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier on about fans maybe debating about how much effort we've put in and all that, I kind of stand on the side of there was effort there, and I think we fought well with them, but it was individual mistakes that then led to the goal and led to the chances a lot of the time. Now, the first one being Scott Martin, obviously for the goal. There is no way he should be getting turned by Scotty Allen on the wing. Like, that's like he's not booked in the game already, so it's not as if he brings him down, he's getting a second yellow and sent off. That's where you just need to do a cynical foul, pull his jersey, pull him back. Do you know what I mean? Because you know that if you give Scotty Allen space in the midfield, he'll find some kind of pass, and he does through to Bobby Lynn. And I just think that that's an individual error from Scotty Martin that then leads to the goal.
It's individual errors, and then just the lack of effort to make up for the errors that we're making is what's ultimately costing us. And when you're in the position that we're in, it just seems that every single error you make is going to get punished and capitalised on, regardless of the level of opposition against. And if we're making so many different individual errors, and they're bound to get capitalised on, and it seems that a recurring theme in all matches we've had this season that we are making an abundance of errors, which ultimately are what teams are capitalising on, and it's just not good enough. No,
and the Dan O'Reilly red card, what did you make of that?
Again, it came from an error from someone out with of him, but O'Reilly's gave the referee a decision to make. It's one of these ones when it's given against you, you feel a bit hard done by, but if it's happening to you, you want the player sent off. So I think it's a red.
I think it's a red as well.
Obviously, I don't want to be saying that, but I think it's a red. He gave the referee a decision to make. The player's away and going to be 1-on-1 to probably make it 2-0.
Yep.
So I can see to a degree why O'Reilly's done what he's done, but he should have been needing to make that, because again, it's came from
someone else's
error.
Yeah, I mean,
which is again too hugely. We mentioned about opposition capitalising on individual errors. It might not be a goal they're capitalising on, but they've capitalised on an error by scoring a goal, and making us have 10 men for 40 minutes. So,
and the change obviously then was made. Doyle moved in to centre back. For some time there was Lawson at right back, then it was switched to Vertanen at right back. So what did you make of that? Because by the looks of it, that could possibly be our back four, or our back five if you include Jimmy Smith.
It shows the lack of depth that we've clearly got, and just it's really frustrating, because we're going to need to play players that are quite a lot of players in their incorrect positions now. I think on Saturday there was probably I don't know what the changes would have been otherwise if you were making it in those manners and putting players in these certain positions. I think obviously Ferguson's was on the bench, but I think they've clearly fucking ruined his confidence with what they've done at Morton.
Yep.
Obviously, you would have thought that the ideal swap at that time would maybe to bring a centre back on, but ultimately he's not had the confidence and he's young centre back to bring him on. So what he's done is moved Doyle to centre back, and then brought Lawson / Vertanen to the right side, which they've both played at some points in the past couple of seasons, but again, that's not out and out positions, and it's ultimately meaning that we're going to be lacking in the positions in which they normally would be in, which I don't know if that'll work out or not.
And after on the bus home, another from Arbroath on the bus home, something that was mentioned by Latimer was he bet fans money, hypothetically, bet fans money that Regan Thomson are signing in August would not play a game for Hamilton Accies. Now, I kind of scoffed at it a wee bit, and I was like, I don't think he'll be one of those players who, like, your Mandian goes, who plays a game and then disappears, these type of players. I didn't think he was going to be that one. and then here we are.
It's, I just don't understand it. Like, I think there's obviously been 3 players that have came in. Obviously, Jamie Hamilton being one of them. We know that he's had a recurring injury. They've made that pretty clear throughout. I do genuinely believe that that's probably been the case. That it's not been ideal that he's came in and he wasn't fully fit for the summer. Obviously, we know what went on there and maybe going to another club, etc. And he's had a recurring injury, but the lack of clarity and confirmation about the 2 boys that have came from Newcastle has just been mind-boggling. Now, I know that there's stuff going on with, like, not having a media person, which hopefully they resolve ASAP, because it's just ridiculous that they don't. So hopefully we get that sorted by this time next week. But back to the point about Regan Thomson. I don't know why you're laughing.
No, I'm not laughing at all. I'm not.
Regan Thomson. It was one of them. Latimer's made that comment. There was just zero clarity for the club throughout the full time he came in. When he was signed, he came from Newcastle 23s. He was highly rated when he was at Queen's Park. And I thought it was going to be a good signing.
So did I.
But he's been absolute nowhere at all to be seen. And, like, what's going on there? Like,
Rankin was quoted as saying that he would control games in the Championship.
So, like,
so he obviously thought he would be a good player for us as well.
What the fuck is happened? Like,
I saw a fan say in one of the comments, and I think this was just their theory, was they gave him a contract to prove his fitness, and if he proved his fitness they would then play, and if he didn't prove his fitness, but you don't give somebody a 2-year contract to prove their fitness. You give them a 6-month deal and say, right, if you get fit, we'll see how you fit in with the team, then we extend it. I just don't get it.
This is the thing about football teams that we don't know, like so we've gave him a 2-year deal, Coley. Does that mean that we've just had to pay him off to get rid of him? Is that what that's effectively meant?
That's the only. My understanding of it is, if we release a player,
unless there's a mutual agreement, which the club really need to come out and clarify this full issue, in my opinion, because obviously there's a bit of animosity between the fans and the club just now, because there is so little clarity on things which are happening, not helped by what's happening, which been put on the park. So stuff like this just can't keep happening. It seems to be something that happens with Accies quite regularly, and then there's zero clarity, and it just sort of gets swept under the carpet. So they really need to come out and clarify this full thing, because it's just a bit of a shambles. And
it's the same with Lucas de Ball before the Arbroath game. We're told that he's not eligible to play. Now, my understanding of eligible to play is that, like, if you're in a cup game, you've previously played in that cup before, transferring, you're on loan from the club you're playing. Like, I don't understand ineligible to play.
I'm thinking that whoever said that has got their words mixed up. Right. I know that a person, Scott Struthers, who's obviously been doing our media, wasn't in the country.
Yep.
So what I'm thinking behind that is whoever's, I don't know, fucking Hamby the hamster who's had the...
He's had the login.
Had the logins, just used the term ineligible, meaning that he wasn't available.
Yeah.
But again, something which clearly needs to be clarified.
I would just like some more information on Lucas de Ball.
I just want to know, because he's clearly, like, that 15-minute cameo, like I said on the View for the Terrace podcast, is probably one of the brightest sparks that we've saw all season. So he's clearly going to have a positive impact when he's on the park. I don't know if Newcastle are holding back from playing because he genuinely does have a concussion issue. I don't know what the ins and outs with regards to if they have a concussion issue, if they need to go through certain protocols or whatnot. But again, we just need to seek clarity on this, and we need the club to come out and provide this. This is what we've said for years upon years, like when certain people have been working within the media and working with the club and stuff like that. All the fans really ask for is a bit of clarity, whether it's good or bad news. Just don't leave us in the sort of dark with what's going on. If Lucas de Ball's away,
Tell us.
Tellies is
Because
away.
what was it somebody said at the weekend? We've currently still got on the books Luke Matheson and all these other players who they've not announced that they've left.
They just need to give us clarity, because we're standing on. I know I'm fucking clutching on to dear life with the fact that Lucas de Ball is still here, because I do think that he'll have a huge impact for us if he is still here, and I hope that he is. And I hope that I hope that he doesn't have a concussion. It wasn't meaning I hope he's got concussion, but I hope
it's a genuine reason.
It's a genuine reason why he's not been able to play in Newcastle, or adhering to all the necessary things, and that's why we're having to adhere to it. It just makes makes zero sense, the fact that we've signed him. He's played 15 minutes because he wasn't fully fit. He's then went away with Scotland. Did well with Scotland, and then not to be seen again for us doesn't make sense.
No,
so but we need clarity. Simple as that. Need clarity, because we're very, very low in players at the present moment. Very small depth wise. We need quality in, and we need probable players in. We don't need to be losing players as we're about to go into the game on Saturday, because as well as Regan Thomson not being with us anymore, we'll also not have Ryan Fulton, we'll not have Dan O'Reilly, and we won't have Scotty Martin. So,
yep. So let's talk about Saturday then. Let's just go straight into how you would line up, because it is a bit of, as I said earlier on, square pegs and round holes. Who do you play? What is your team for Saturday, given the players that we know? Now, we're saying Ryan Fulton, we can only suspect that he's not going to be available because he obviously picked up the injury before Arbroath. He didn't play in the reserves game, wasn't involved in that, maybe to keep fitness up, whatever it was. So maybe they're just keeping him safe at the side, and kind of they'll see on the day. But we're just taking from the fact that he couldn't play in Arbroath, he's not going to play Cove. So
I think the fact that with Ryan Fulton's not there, obviously it needs to be Jamie Smith, but we don't know what's happening there. The fact that O'Reilly is out injured has just emphasised suspended, just emphasises how much we need to bring in another centre back. We get rid of Sean Watt without $1,000,000 without replacing him. Unless you had a replacement lined up, you'd maybe get rid of Sean Watt. If that was their mindset, they didn't think he was good enough and they were wanting to bring someone else in, fair enough, but they've not brought someone else in. And then we've ultimately left ourselves short, because what happens if for instance, Easton gets injured on Saturday?
Yep.
We don't have one centre back in the club above 18.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that just, and we know that Easton's susceptible to getting injuries. So what happens if we're in that scenario? We need a centre back in. Now I know there was rumours flying about at the weekend about a potential centre back that was over the line.
Let's just say it. There were rumours going about in the fan bus and that Ziggy Gordon was pretty close to returning to the club,
and
but
I mean,
that deal ended up falling through.
I don't know why that's fallen through. I don't see him signing with another club at the present moment. So he's
still a free agent on his LinkedIn, if that's any help for anybody. But yes, that's the rumours that we heard.
So why not just going? I know that if he's been offered the wages elsewhere, then it'll be probably hard to compete, knowing his fucking, obviously he likes to travel about the joint. He's been to Australia and whatnot, Poland, etc. But surely you just, like, he's a sort of Accies cult hero. He can play right back and can play centre back. He's been a captain for ourselves. He's experienced. That obviously the rumour came out of nowhere and took me back by surprise, but that would do so. Yeah, that would do so much positive. It's the perfect fit, and bringing him in will just get so much fans back in the side, and they will actually see that the board are recruiting in the right area. They're bringing someone in the fans can relate to. Yep. And it's just a person in a position which we're dying to have. Yeah. So if there is any truth in that rumour, and there's still possibility for it, I think they should do their utmost to get it, because essentially what happens if we're in this position in a couple of, like, at any point in the season where we've got a centre back out suspended or a centre back out injured, now we're having to speak amongst ourselves and thinking, who are we going to play here, because we've only got really one recognised centre back in our team, and it's Brian Easton.
Right, well, let's talk about how you would line up then against Cove. What is your line up?
I think we've been taught about how we need to change up the team and how we're set up, etc. I think this is maybe a good time to try a change of formation just due to the players that are available to him. There's no point in rushing Jamie Hamilton back if he's not anywhere near fit. You know what will happen to him. If you rush him back and then he's out for even longer. Yep. So there's no point in rushing him in. Just embed him in when he's fit. I think this is a good chance to go the three centre backs, because ultimately all we've got really centre backs wise that are recognised centre backs is Brian Easton, Fergus Owens, who's obviously a very young boy,
and Cian
Newbury. What's his name? Doyley's obviously came in at the weekend and played there. I think you go with Easton, Owens and Doyle as centre backs. I just don't see how it can go Easton and let's say a Doyle centre back partnership, or an Easton or a Owens partnership. There needs to be more stability, because as we've said in the previous podcast and stuff like that, ultimately how it looks at a lot of the periods of times, because of how we're set up and how we've got the sort of two attacking full-backs, is we've only got two centre-backs. Give a bit more stability, because we're down in numbers and we're down on players in specific areas. Play the three centre-backs whilst having right wing-back. You're going to need to either have Lawson or Virtanen. I've got no qualms in Virtanen or Lawson playing there. I think both of them should be playing on Saturday. We'll come on to Virtanen in a minute.
You're missing a right wing back option.
Am I?
Yeah. Well, you're not missing out on a right wing back option, but another player who has played at right wing back before for Accies is Ellis Brown under Stuart Taylor.
I'm not missing a right wing back option. No, just sorry.
Number 22, mate.
Yes,
the famous
I'm
22.
sorry, that cannot work. Shields left wing back. And then depending obviously on who your right back is, whether that the right wing back is either Lawson or Virtanen, you have one of them in there. I think both of them should be playing regardless.
Yeah, I agree.
I think because you've then got the three centre backs, you've then got a bit more sort of flexibility within the middle and up front a wee bit. So, and Gandu's obviously played the past few games. He wasn't really he wasn't to the standard of what he was against Thistle and Inverness. Hence why he came off and we had to sort of tactically change how we were. But I think he should be playing in the middle. And then I think that then gives you either the scope to have another centre mid in Regan Mimno, or you have a more attacking player to then play behind two up top. So either like a 5-2-1-2 or a 5-3-2, but essentially two wing backs. They're going to shields bombs forwards. You're playing a midfielder at right back who's going to get forward as in a sort of inverted wing back. So I would either have, so I've got Ngandu, but then Ryan and Winter up top. It's just whether then you play Mimno as a free in midfield, or you have a Smith behind your Winter and Ryan. That's how I'd set up.
That's interesting. I would have the same back five. I would have Lawson at right wing back over Virtanen. I would have Virtanen in the middle with Mimno and Gandu behind two strikers. But I would actually play. No, I wouldn't. No, you're right. I would play Ryan and Winter. I was going to say Ryan and Teehee, but I would play Ryan and Winter.
Or what you could do is play what we've said would set up like there, but just have Ngandu where Mimno is beside Virtanen or Lawson. Then have Winter, which is just disregarding the argument in which
we've just made
about Winter being up top. And then having Teehee and
you
Ryan.
You could play Ryan behind Winter and Teehee, because Ryan the two games has dropped in.
Do the matter with the change about.
Because Ryan has dropped into midfield the last two games.
Fucking deep as fuck the past few games, you know what I mean? So he's obviously got the capabilities of doing that, but ultimately the main point that we are saying here is with the players that we've got available to ourselves, it needs to be a five at the back on to Virtanen. I think he needs to start again.
Two good cameos.
Two good cameos, but ultimately against Morton, he was one of the only two players to come up and apologise. At Arbroath, he was the only player to come over and apologise. For a player that's been out for fucking
a year,
not really been anywhere to be seen. Why should he be the one that's having to come over and apologise for what's clearly not good enough, and he can see that. But aye, fair play to him. But I think we've not really saw enough of him. He's been like, we heard from our Arbroath fans how good he was.
Yep.
He got injured very quickly. We didn't see much of him. He was at Aberdeen obviously before us. I just fingers crossed he can get a bit better on the team.
Perfect opportunity to do it.
This is a perfect opportunity to do it.
Yep. Let's move on then to only the fans. This is where we
get up in your fucking wife, friends.
This is where we answer your questions that you've submitted on social media. As always, they are linked in the description if you want to be involved next time round. Let's start off with Dave, who has asked, why can't we back up results? Is it a mental thing? Do we just assumed we've turned a corner? Is it how the boys are coached? Complacency? I have no ideas. Would be good to hear your thoughts. That's something we mentioned earlier on about we cannot string 2 wins together. It just doesn't happen with Accies. I mean, we talked about it in the bus. When was the last time we won 2 games back to back?
Been something for the past, God knows how long, that just has always been a thing that Accies have never really been able to get back to back results. Do you know what I mean? It's just something which has never been the case, and more often than not, the really recent years is just something that doesn't happen. Again, I think I spoke about it on the View for the Terrace podcast before Arbroath. The thing that really put me off and had a feeling that Arbroath were going to win was the fact that Rankins came out and said, we feel like we've turned a corner. The vibe in the dressing room is brilliant. Everyone's on a high. As soon as I hear that and see that in the media, with an Accies team, I know where it's gone. As soon as I see that of recent years, it just makes me believe, right, we've got one result. We had a massive fight. Everybody had a massive fight. Like I couldn't hide my emotions after that because it felt so good. But ultimately we beat a team that was heavily depleted, and we went against a team that were bottom of the league who we should be beating, and despite being on this massive high and seemingly turned a corner, we get beat. So we're rightfully where we are just now, and we need to change things fast. But I don't know if it's a mentality thing or if it's just whatever it is, but they need to fix it soon.
Completely. This question is from Ben, 1885. Ben is an Inverness fan. He's been on the channel before. He asked, what would the impact of relegation to League One be for the club? And we talked about it a little bit last week in terms of our youth team and how it would maybe impact that. But in terms of the football club as a whole, how do you think it would
massively,
impact it?
Man. Like, we've obviously heard about a thing that I need to mention this because this made me laugh a wee bit. So in the View for the Terrace, Craig Fowler was mentioning one of the comments which the director, I think it was Colin McGowan, made, saying he came out with a comment saying Accies couldn't live without their sponsorships, and Craig Fowler's like, that is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard from someone within a football club. No football team could live without their sponsorships, which is the truth.
Yep.
Like, regardless of you having a fan base, etc., let's just say Celtic, for instance. I think Celtic would be able to just constantly turn on Parkhead lights and constantly be fighting where they are if they were so reliant on their supporters and their gate money. Of course they're not. Everything needs sponsorship these days, and that's what he essentially said. So that's what came into my mind there. But that's a good way to bring it into his question, because we might be doing all this good work behind the scenes commercially, and we are bringing in money, which credit where credit's due to the people that are doing that. But
and can I just say, we know how important that is.
No,
I don't want him to think that we just shrug that off.
No, 100%.
We understand how Accies work,
especially with the season tickets that we've got, etc. So it is imperative, but it's imperative for a lot of football clubs. But the point I'm trying to get at here is, what's a more appealing thing to sponsor, or appealing thing to get involved within? Is it going to be a Premiership club? Is it going to be a Championship? Is it going to be a League One club? And what's the difference in margins with the sort of packages you can sell and you can bring in for that commercially? It's massive. Like, the gulf between Championship and Premiership will be huge, but the gulf between the Championship and League One's going to be even bigger. So ultimately, it'll have a massive impact on that side of things. Again, there's not many League One clubs that are full time. I think you've got Falkirk
And
and Fairmont at the present moment. I don't know if is there anyone else? I think Airdrie were thinking about it, but they didn't. But no, so you've got two who are pretty big hitters who will be very reliant on going up this season. I wouldn't think we would be full time. I really think we would need to be, but ultimately, if we weren't full time with our first team, then how could you have a full time academy?
Especially one at the size of Accies.
And one at the size of Accies, and one which is seen to be like the bread and butter of Accies, what everything that Accies is known about, and what the club itself perceives its identity is. So it's not just people outside of Accies that perceive the identity of Accies as being about their academy. The club very much are all about their academy and it being the elite level. You can't have an elite level academy if you're not full time. Mm-hmm. So if we get relegated, it would have a huge detrimental effect, not only on the fan base, not only on funds, not only about all of that, but the identity of Accies essentially could just be taken away there if we did get relegated. So that's why it's imperative that we need to speculate to accumulate, and we need to ensure that we're getting out of this fucking position we're in, or else the way it's looking just now is we are heading that way.
Yep. Liam has asked, do you think Rankin will turn this bad form around and manage to bring us up the table? If not, do you think we will be looking at paying Morton what they want for Dougie Imrie? Again, something touched on a little bit last week about how if Rankin goes, Imrie is the natural successor. But do you think Rankin will turn it around? This is piggybacking off of what you said earlier on about take away what I think of Rankin. I really like the guy. I speak to him at press, obviously, after the home games. He says all the right things. He's a really nice guy. He's came on our podcast. He said all the right things there as well. But as you said, it's a results business at the end of the day. And if he's not getting the results, then there's not really much we can say. You know, we can say all day long, "You're a nice guy, mate." But see, if you're not doing what's best for the club, it doesn't matter if you're a nice guy or not. You know, it's a tricky thing to talk about so early on in the season. I know where we are, but so early on in the season. But from what I've seen so far, I can see him getting good effort levels out of us, but I don't see points on the board coming anytime soon.
I think I still have a glimmer of hope that he'll turn that around. I just think
I hope he does.
All the players can't speak more highly of him.
Yep.
He seems to be doing and saying the right things on the training pitch. It's not shown on the actual football pitch for one reason or another, because I don't get it. If we keep going back to the standard of the league and fine margins, but ultimately we're not getting the results. So I still hold on to a bit of belief that we can turn it around. I hold on to some belief that Lucas de Ball's still going to be there. I hold on to belief that maybe Ronnie, Les, etc. Ronnie, Les, Alan might bring in a few players because they're realising that we could be in deep trouble if he doesn't get results in the next few games. As much as I really like the guy and I really hope he does do well, because I just see a lot of positives in him. It's just not reflecting on the football parts and results. He ultimately needs to go if he doesn't get started getting results. I think if he gets beat on Saturday, like I said at the start, I think he probably should go. And the only thing I say to that is, if he does go, then, and I believe that if the results aren't right, he should be gone. There's no point in getting rid of him though if you aren't going and paying Morton and getting Imrie, or you already have someone that's highly regarded that you know, or the board know that is going to do them well. We can't just be getting rid of them and hiding from within, because what difference is that going to change?
Or another manager who's not getting any managerial experience.
So what difference is that going to do? Because clearly Rankin's been promoted, and when he first came in as the assistant, we saw a change in what we were doing. We saw a complete kickstart. The players are mentioning how much they believe in what he says, and they get effort out of him. So if we get rid of him, but they ultimately bring in someone who's completely unknown to them, or bring someone that's already within the fold at the present moment, what difference is he going to make to them? Nothing. And that's why if they do get rid of ranking, then ultimately all they can do, in my opinion, is either get an experienced person or someone that they know and is tried and tested, or pay the money for Imrie for Morton, which I think makes a lot of sense if they've got the money there. But ultimately, again, as we keep mentioning, if we get rid of another manager, how much money is that we've spent in the past season and a half and getting rid of managers? How much a hole was that burnt, which we could have been invested in players, etc. So it's a bit of a weird one, but we just need to see results quick, or else it's ultimately what's going to happen.
Before we move on to the end, Neil Graham has asked, what is your views on the repurposing of the North Stand? And that's obviously coming from what was previously the council offices. Looks like, not had official confirmation yet, but it looks like it's going to be turned into rehabilitation housing.
If the money goes to the football team, then ultimately, in my opinion, the decision should lie with the local community with regards to that one. The people that are attending the nursery, they are the people that live in Whitehill. If it's bringing money into the football club, I'd say I don't really care what's at our football club, because of just how the football club has been for the past few seasons. If it's safe, if it's secure, then listen, I don't know much about this. For what I've been reading and hearing, and certain things, this is how modern football stadiums are going just now, and they're housing lots of different things. However, that being said, it's ultimately, in my opinion, it shouldn't really be. Hamilton Accies fans, of course, can voice their opinion and speak about what's within their own football stadium, but ultimately, I think the main opinions and main voices and views on this should be the people that live locally to it, are in the local community, the people that are going to work day to day, people that are putting their children in thingy. Because listen, I don't know the safety and security of it all. Surely they wouldn't be going ahead with something like this if they didn't have full confirmation about security and safety. But that being said, a gap's been massively filled with the council offices leaving their tenancy. Surely by doing this, it'll bring in a lot of money, and we would need to get confirmation and clarity that it was going to be reinvested in the football club, which ultimately, surely the only reason that they would be doing this is for that reason, and that reason mainly only. But again, we need clarity on that. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think we need more information on it than what we've been given. I know it's just kind of up in the air now. We don't know if it's going to happen, but it looks more certain kind of every time we do get an update.
I think we really need clarity on why they're doing it and what benefits it will have for the football club and the local community. Because it's really only just been sort of plans and then news articles that we've read it. I think on a football club side of things, having it in your football stadium, we need to find out what's the benefits of it and need that clarified. And then for the local community, obviously helping people which are obviously in the place which they're in has its benefits. But yeah, it just, again, clarity needs to be given on it.
All right, before we move on to our little quiz questions at the end, the last question is from an account called Steve Lawson's Hot.
Cool.
Is that your burner account, Brandon? Steve Lawson's Hot. He asks, or she, one Accies player you would really want back at this current time. So a former Accies player that you would like to return to the club in the position we are in currently. Let's go with they're still playing and all that, so you can't bring somebody
Can
out
I
of
just
retirement.
can I just break this in now, because I've just went on my phone for the first time here, and Hamilton Accies I've tweeted 5 minutes ago. So John Patterson said, time for the Ambroses signing pitch to kickstart again, and Accies have said he is with Morton.
First of all, why would you tweet that? Second of all, does that say that he's now moved on to training with Morton, or Morton are going to sign him, or
I don't know, but I don't know. The club are obviously responding to fans in certain manners, which is good. We want to see the fans getting responded to, but recently in the manner in which they're doing so, we've sort of, I don't know.
Oh,
anyway, so apparently,
sorry.
we were talking about we needed a centre back, but apparently Ambrose is a
Do give him his beat us to it.
no, that I thought Ambrose was, so we've allowed him to train with us, and now he's went to
a rival.
I don't know what's happened there. We clearly need a centre back, and we've probably not offered him the wages he probably wanted, but ultimately Morton have offered more wages than us. If that's true, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, what was the question you asked? Sorry,
the question was from Steve Lawson's Hot. What former Accies player would you bring back in our current situation? So let's go with
playing right now.
So let's go with they need to still be playing. We can't bring somebody out of retirement. I've got mine.
I'll let you go yours so I can think about it.
So I've been thinking about positions we need. So we need a centre back, right? Mm-hmm. So my natural thought was Ziggy Gordon, because we've spoke about him already. But then I thought, we're not being clinical enough in front of goal. So I'm going to go with somebody who you said on Instagram in the last 10 years maybe the best striker we've had. I'm going to go with Stevie May.
See, I thought you were actually going to flip that in the way in which I would have done it there, because you said we need a centre back, right, quite clearly, but we're also not clinical in front of goal. Mm-hmm. So a clinical centre back, Lucas Tagliapietro.
Oh, that's a great shout, by the way.
Think about all the goals he would score in the Championship. The amount of goals he scored when we're in the Premier League, he was a stick on to bet anytime.
Lucas, man, he was brilliant.
So listen, I don't even know where Lucas is playing these days. I know he went for $2 million a couple of years ago. So I think we need a centre back, one that stands out to me and would score his goals for set pieces, etc. I think Lucas would be a brilliant signing. There's probably someone that we're missing right now that is absolutely
Blair Olsen. Get him back in midfield.
Doing all right, by the way.
Get him back in midfield, the Tin Man. Well, if you've got any, obviously, of your own choices, if you think we're missing anybody, leave them in the comments, drop us a tweet. Before we finish, though, we have a wee tradition we've started where we like to ask each other a quiz question to finish it, to test each other's knowledge. Now, I think I went first last week, or did you go first last week?
I think I'll go first. No,
you asked me first, or
I'll ask you first.
Right, okay.
Okay, so we've obviously seen that Regan Thomson has left the club this season without making a single appearance.
I knew this was going to be the question.
How many players can you mention that have left Accies? I don't know the exact amount here, but this is we can ask the fans to follow up. How many players, to your memory, have played less than 3 games for Accies before leaving?
One I've mentioned already, Christopher Mandiangu.
I think he's played more than 3.
No, he played 1 cup game.
Against Arden?
Yes, and that was his only appearance. Because I actually checked it on the bus home.
Did he not come on as a sub against something else?
Not according to Transfer Market.
Oh, right,
and usually they're pretty accurate.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Mandiangu, the Greek midfielder, Kovo, whatever his name. What was it? He's rated at 3.5 million or something like that.
Apparently
ridiculous.
Best signing in years, apparently. That's what we're told.
Victor Gutsel. Nico Chumsky. Who was the keeper? The bald keeper. Mucha.
You're missing a player that played with Barcelona.
Is that his name?
Rubiales. I think that could be one, but I was thinking of Salva Chamorro.
Oh yeah,
Barcelona B.
So he was. So that's
you're missing a very well-known Scottish football manager as well.
Davy Moyes.
No, he's probably played quite a few games.
He did play more than Davy.
He's
Jack Ross.
Yes.
Jack Ross. Alright, that's not bad.
There'll
7 or 8.
probably be a lot more than that. So anything you've got, let us know. And again, let us know any questions you've got. But in the comments, leave as many players who have not played more than 3 games for Accies before not playing. Regan Thomson didn't
joining
play a
that
single
list.
one.
So my question to you before we wrap up this episode, Brandon, is last week it was 4 years since we beat Basel in the UEFA Youth League. Maybe the best atmosphere I've ever experienced at Douglas Park for a youth game. I think it was £1 to get in or something ridiculous like that, right? So I'm going to ask you to name me who scored Accies penalties.
Sean Slavin.
Yep.
Regan Mimno.
Yep.
Andy Winter.
No, Regan Mimno was one I didn't think you would get. So
Andy Winter's no.
Andy Winter scored in the game but didn't score a penalty. I honestly thought Regan Mimno was the one you would get.
I had a vibe about Mimno there.
He's a vibes player. He's a vibes.
Talk about these memes.
And by the way, shout out to all, just while you're thinking, shout out to all the players who interacted with the tweet and all that. We put up all the old youth players. It was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Great to see Ross Connolly, Sean Slavin, Leon McCann shared it and all that as well. So shout out to those guys.
It'd have been good if they clubbed that.
No comment.
Hopefully that'll happen.
Our media man was in Romania or something, mate. Don't worry about it. He was busy.
Back to the question.
So you've got Sean Slavin, Regan Mimno, and you're missing one more.
Also, was 3 penalties.
Three penalties won, 3-2. Ross Connolly saved.
And he still plays with, isn't it? Because then I was going to shout out like fucking Kyle Monroe because I know he played. What position?
Gives it away if I give you the position. We've had him on the podcast.
For fuck's sake!
He's one of our own. He's one of our own. Lewis Smith was the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Something that I actually just remembered that we've not spoke about, just to wrap up the episode, is the cup draw. We just drew EK in the third round of the cup. The returning of Kyle Monroe and Mr. Ronan Hughes.
Listen,
How do you see that going?
I think we forgot about it for a reason. It's probably the most least glamorous tie possible. It was so boring, but essentially incoming fucking Ronan Hughes masterclass. Shite draw, shite team, shite
Which
players. One? Accies defeat.
Is that honestly what you think we'll get beat?
I think we'll win, but it's just I was pissed off because how shite a draw it was. I was hoping it was a Wick Academy away or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But it should essentially mean that we're through to the next round of the Scottish Cup. But a lot of fans are obviously saying otherwise. But if they get beat that, then I'm done with them.
Well, this is what I was
I'm done. If we get beat off East Kilbride, then I'm done.
Well, this is what I was going to say to you was when you mentioned about John Rankin losing at Cove, then that's it. I think they will give him more time, and I think
when is this game?
27th of this week.
Well, that being said, if they're going to give him until then, he needs to get the results. Otherwise, even if he gets results now until then, if he loses that, he should be gone.
Yeah, like, well, that was my point.
Regardless of winning every game now until East Kilbride, if he lost that, then he should be gone. Just like many predecessors should have been gone when they get beat off certain people. I'm just glad we didn't get Annan. But shite draw. We forgot about it for a reason, but ultimately it should be us through the next round. Even though a lot of fans are having their doubts, but aye.
Alright, well, thank you very much for listening. As always, really appreciate it. We'll leave a link in the description to our socials and also to the G4 podcast studio. Thank you again to them for allowing us to use their studios. It is much appreciated, and you can click the link in the description to check out the services of there. Once again, leave in the comments answers to any questions we've given. We want to hear your opinions. Any quiz questions you want Brandon and I to answer in the future, any topics you want us to discuss in the comments or on our social media. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.